Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Ian, and this is Amateur Adobe Live, and where you get to watch me kind of stumble through some Adobe stuff. And tonight, I think I was going to do some Lightroom work, so I'm just kind of going through with my love-hate relationship with Lightroom. There's a lot of things I love about Lightroom, and there's just a lot of things to hate about Lightroom. But it is what it is. It's probably the best program at what it does, which is pretty much you know fix and work on your photos. So, first thing out of the box here is I don't necessarily do um, the standard Lightroom catalog transitions. I kind of go through. I use since I use a Sony camera, I do use their Play Memories Home to kind of pull pictures in, uh, and you do that way. I don't use the Lightroom import. Sony import actually just gives me pretty much everything that I want. There's a couple. I mean, I hate it too. Um, so it's Sony, but you get the raw in without any real alterations or anything like that. It just sucks the raw right off the SD card. And so while I'm pulling some photos in, I've taken recently. I did just get some new. I just got some brand new funky Sony M cards. These are really fast. I put them in the Beast, which is the my A7 III. Oh, knocking it over here. I kind of put them in my little Beast here, my Beastie. This is my A7 III with my 70 to 200 f4, which is what pretty much every picture that I'm pulling in today is using the 70 to 200. I really love it. I love this lens. There's a lot to love about this. Um, Even though it's not the 2.8. It's not 2.8 was still kind of out of my budget range, but getting that f4 was amazing. It really has changed the way I thought about how I uh, shoot and everything. I really used to kind of hang on some prime lenses, and I thought, man, maybe I'll get like a prime 130 or something in that range, and above 100 range. But then I thought, let's try the 70 to 200. It got a lot of good reviews. Got the f4 got a lot of good reviews. So there was a lot of back and forth in my mind and a lot of research online before I kind of settled and said, yeah, I'm going to get that f4. Um, but it was actually pretty good. So at this point, we're pretty close to pulling in all the pictures using, and yeah, a lot of these are going to be crap because that's what you do. You take pictures, and not a lot of them are good. It's just what happens. So once I get them in through Play Memories, like that, we're gonna go into Lightroom, and I have like a nice 3 monitor setup, but Lightroom gets weird about stuff. I don't necessarily about multiple monitors. You would think that if you're a photographer and you're doing a lot of work, you have more than one monitor, and but Lightroom tends to go, Lightroom, at least Lightroom Classic tends to get really weird about setting up 2 monitors. Um, and it's not necessarily useful with the second monitor. Now, I have it set up. I'll show you my second monitor here. Um, let's get that. Oop. Lightroom, actually, it goes away when you do that. But so here's my this is my main menu. This is my main monitor right here that I have all the stuff, and I'm going to create a catalog. That's another issue I have. But with 2 monitors, you can set 2 monitors. So I usually set the second monitor up for a normal loop so that when I'm over here, I can pull it and kind of keep. But the first monitor kind of stays the way it is. This is another picture I took at the zoo. So let's transition over to, and let's make this go away again, and transition over, and it's going to go away again. So here's the second monitor, just kind of playing. I usually use it again as a loop. This was taken with the 70 to 200, pretty far in. Not bad. Kind of nailed the eye right there a little bit. There was a fence in between here. You can see the fence got it kind of messed up. But it's not bad. It's not something. It's something that you can actually play with in Lightroom, I think, if you're going to play with this photo. But I wasn't planning on playing with this photo today. But now I'm off on a tangent because I'm kind of looking at it. You might be able to play with the dehaze and try to take some of that out, but that's really not going to work as well as you'd like it to. And until it just makes a sword mess. I mean, you can reduce it a little bit using the dehaze, just kind of give it a plus. And like I do with all my other photos, I don't push anything really hard. I don't push the contrast really hard. The exposure on this, if you're looking at, let's switch back to the first screen. If you're looking at the histogram on this one up here, it's actually pretty nice. It's actually exposed, right kind of where I like it to be exposed. It's not a little bit, you don't want it to put, if I push this any harder on the exposure, and you could probably play with it since it's a raw file, you're going to lose everything in the highlights, and it's just not going to look good. So the exposure that it nailed actually kind of, I actually kind of like this. I mean, it kind of came out really great right out of the camera. But I'll push the contrast just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of depth. I'm going to leave the shadows where they are, play with the blacks a little bit, and just to kind of push that end. There's not a lot of blacks in this, so if I push it down, you can really give it some neat contrasty look, but I don't want to crush them too far. I just want to go a little bit right there, just a little. And kind of pop some clarity in there just to kind of bring out some of the detail, and then put some vibrance on it just to bring out a little bit more of the color. There's some patches of green here that are really neat, and a little bit of dehaze just to try to see if I can get some of that kind of going away. Now, you kind of might ask yourself, well, why don't you just crop it in? I'm not necessarily a big crop. I could probably crop this out, but I'm not necessarily a crop. I don't like to crop as much as I like to try to do a lot of my cropping in camera. I wanted this background. I really wanted to see where this guy was sitting, and kind of hiding in the shade. It was a bright sunny day, and he was just kind of hanging out in the shade a little bit. It was a cool day, but he was just hanging out in the shade. So yeah, so that's that particular photo, and kind of happy with it, just the way it is. Even with the lines here, I mean, I could probably go into Photoshop and play with that a little bit to try to take those out, but I think it kind of gives it a little bit of interesting lines coming in even through the fence. So just to give it some more interest. Oh, we took this behind a fence. Yeah. It kind of gives a different feel. So I thought that was a really neat, we'll turn on, how did I turn on soft proofing? So we'll get, so I thought it was a pretty neat little image to play with, and kind of look at when you look in here. I'm really happy with that. So, check the volume. Everybody's saying the volume's a little bit low. I'm going to try to see if I could push it a little bit. Is to do. Checking the volume here. Let me look at my output. Push this up a little bit. Is that better, everybody? So let's see I think, there we go. I don't know if that's better. My output is kind of hitting a little bit higher. If that's better, let me know. All right. So just had the mic turned down just a little bit. I'm trying to give myself a little headroom on the mic so I don't bounce it up. But yeah, so let's go. Now I'm going to actually just import. We took a little sidetrack playing with that photo. Um, but actually, I'm going to import some of the photos that I took recently. And it's, again, this is where Lightroom is just so much of a pain to do all this stuff. So I don't actually use the import module, I guess, as much as I should. I usually import everything. I kind of get everything over to my pictures folder on my main hard drive, and then I play with it there. So we're going to go, this is March 2020. So I'm going to kind of bounce around here. And this is, again, what Sony just does that kind of annoys me, that I can't put the year first. That's just me. So here's some pictures I want to put in. I'm going to add to a new collection. I'm going to call this, I usually put the year first on my collections, so I have them organized. So I'm going to go, and then the month, and then we'll call this quarantine. Is that how to spell that? I'll just call it COVID. COVID-19. So I'm going to create that as a collection to put these particular photos in, and then I'm going to import them. There it goes. So let's grab some more from March to put in there. If I can find my pictures again, looking for March of this year. Did I do that? Okay, that was the 18th. Here's the 20th. Adding to collection. COVID. We'll import those in. And these are just from like walking around or hanging out in the backyard for the most part. And let's grab some more to import into this collection. I'm probably doing this all wrong. There's probably a much more efficient way to do this, but I don't necessarily do things in the most efficient way possible. So let's look at the 24th. There was a bunch. I was just kind of hanging out in the backyard. So we're going to import into that one. So we're generally importing a bunch of pictures. And usually it's easier. I just import the folders first. But how I see this whole catalog system just is like, why can't I just import and work from a folder, but I'm not as knowledgeable, I guess, as Adobe on how these things should work. Oh, there's my fire pit. So we'll add that to collection 2. We'll take some more light. We'll add that to that collection. And then now let's just take a look, and we are going to go back to the library. We'll pull our COVID collection up. And I might add more to the COVID collection. But so at this point, I can make the thumbnails a little bit bigger. But I usually have the second monitor up for this. So we're going to look at and just start going through and saying, what do I like? Do I like this guy? It was okay. I mean, you could see with this lens, this 70-200 lens is just super, super good. I mean, it's just amazingly clean lens. And when it gets focused like right on and nails it like way it's supposed to be. Here's a neat little red bird. I mean, I could probably crop this in. This is cropped 1:1 here, but I could probably crop it in a little bit further, and crop it in really close, and still have a really good picture. I mean, even though it's cropped, you can see there's not a lot of noise on this, and that I haven't even played with this one yet as far as changing some of the things, but it's just an amazing little piece of lens when you do that. So at this point, I have some buttons set up on a Stream Deck. I think one of the nicest things, if you're not doing, Stream Deck by Elgato, cool little tool that you can kind of do all kinds of stuff in and have little buttons set up so that it makes it a little bit easier. And the buttons, it's all programmable, so it's not just used for streaming. I mean, I have it for lots of other things. So let's take a look. Like that was a really nice. That actually turned out really well. Let's take a look at this one. Let it do it. Let Lightroom do its thing. That's actually not bad by itself. Bird butt back there. Turned a little bit on me. Turned all the way on that one. So I think if you're looking at this guy, that's actually a really nice one right there. Kind of playing. Here's guy kind of peeking around, little bird feeder out in my backyard. He's not interested in me. He doesn't really care. So the first one that I got, I think I like the first one the best. So I'm going to flag that one. And this is kind of how I just go through it. I go through and I take a look and say, well, which pictures do I like best? What do I like? What am I seeing here? Is it look, did I nail focus where I wanted it to go? Did the focus do what I wanted it to do? Did it get what I wanted it to get? That would actually be a pretty neat picture cropped. Like that close even, like right there maybe. And just kind of crop it in right there, because that's actually a cool picture. So we'll flag that one and we'll work from there. This one is okay. Again, looking at the bird who turned on me. Didn't want to turn back. That one I missed focus, so we're going to throw that one away. Go through. Boom. That one I missed focus too, so we'll just let that one go. Some fire pit shots. Didn't like where that one was focused. Don't like these fire pit ones at all, which is probably why I think I took it again. We got some bird beak back there. Can't really see much on that one. We're not worried about it. Here's some trees around the neighborhood. Kind of as we're taking walks. Which do I like better of the trees? That tree. Okay, we can let's flag that one. That one kind of looks like a nice tree. We'll play with that one a little bit. Did I get nailed? Yeah, I pretty much nailed focus on that one. Look at that. Right there. Here's a picture of birds practicing social distancing where I didn't nail focus on that one. No. Focus sucks. Got focus on that guy, but not focus on that guy. So, see, focus is there. That's good. Focus is not. So these are probably, yeah, he's out of focus. He's in focus. Okay, so, well, it happens. Let's see. Take it. This guy, I missed focus on that guy. Missed focus on that guy. A little bit of missed focus. Let's see. Coming up to the feeder. Don't like where he's sitting. There you go. See, that one's really good. You got that guy nice and close. Look at The nice swirly bokeh background on that one. Let's pick that one. I like where he's sitting on the feeder. I don't need bird butts. So, does Lightroom allow me to flip the image? Yeah, in Develop. When you're in Develop, you can flip it around. And I get a question also. How big is that file? Well, the raw file is a good question. I never really care. Should I care? Uh, let's take a look. Like the raw file itself is well, this is, let's see. Let's see if I can open up. See if it won't let me open it up. Go to Photo, Show and Explorer. So a raw file, this one raw file is about 47 megabytes out of this camera, if you're interested. So you can see it's really getting good nail focus. I might actually crop some of these because it just looks so good on the crop. And this is actually wide open. I mean, you're looking at f4, which is the high end of the wide open end of the lens. So you're looking at a very, I haven't even played with distortion or anything yet, and you can see it's just a very nice image. It comes out of this lens. It's so good. Take it home. I would recommend if you have a Sony, at least get the 70-200 f4. If you can afford the 2.8, because I've heard the 2.8 is crazy awesome, then get the 2.8. So, said I'm playing with 2 monitors here, so I'm going to just show you one. See, is this one good? Look at that. That is like right on where you want it to be. That is really cool. This isn't the photographer. This is the camera and the bird cooperating. That's a f4. A little bit off on that one. You can see it's a little bit off because the eye isn't as sharp as you want it to be. Did I adjust focus on that? Like he's looking right. See, this is one where you miss. This is a miss. Boom, no focus there. And he's looking right at me too. You would think it would be in the same plane, but actually the focus is kind of kicking back here. It's on the feeder because that's where I was focused. And when the bird kind of went and hopped on this thing and then looked at me, he's out of focus. That's just not. I mean, that's a neat picture, but the focus just isn't there. So we're back to this. I just don't like it. That's dark. Don't like. He's looking back at me. It's a little dark in there. I could probably play with that one and see what that turns out because he's in such a shadow, but we could bring the shadows up and see if we could bring the eyes out. So let's flag that one. We'll play with that one. Here's one where he's looking a little bit more directly at me. I still think the focus is a little off, but we'll play with both of those. Me too. So it's just going through and saying, I like this, I don't like it, picking it or not picking it. Is the focus there? Nope. Focus missed on that one. Let's see if we're on focus here. I missed focus on that one a little bit. This is how we learn, by failure. Failed. Know to kind of play with the focus a little bit more. Maybe I got it on this one. No, I'm still looking a little. I mean, that's the issue. Since this ends is at f4, your depth of field is really small, and so you get kind of lucky sometimes, and you nail some. But this one, I was not so lucky. I might be able to bring out some. I don't know. I'll play with that and just see with it. I'll flag it and see what it looks like. That one was. Oh yeah, there's our friend the woodpecker, and that one's way out of focus. You can tell she's out of focus. Then we're back to our, because that was just like he was there for just like, hey, it's a second. I'm here later. I'm not staying. And one of the things that I'm shooting here, I think I was shooting silently. I mean, I am pretty close to the feeder in my backyard. I'm sitting in a chair back there. So I think that I was on silent shooting because I didn't really want to scare the birds away. But you could see where I'm missing focus a little bit. And I don't know if that's from the silent shutter. Just a little bit of, because when they move, you get some mess up from the silent shutter. That one might actually be a fun one to play with. So we're going to pick that one. Yeah, you could shoot a lot really quick. And when you're looking at it here, it looks, wow, looks really good. And then you get inside and you're like, I just missed his eye. I want to see his eye. He's got that black part and his eyes in the black, and I'd really like to see that. It's not as good as the first picture. I got the sun kind of over. Oh, that one I kind of like that one. It's looking out at me. We'll pick that one. So just go through some of this and pick. See what's good. See what's not good. There's the woodpecker coming around the edge, and I misfocus. You can see the depth of field here is very, very shallow at this point because I'm at f4. I'm all the way in, even though I'm shooting at 500 shutter speed 1/500th. It's just that it's too. Did I adjust focus on that? No. Just kind of took it and let it go. Okay. He was hard to get. That woodpecker, they don't stick around that long. So here's more birds in the back. That one, yeah, you can see that one messed up. Don't like any of those really. Boom, boom. Here's a cardinal. Let's see, did we get the did I nail the cardinal? I took a bunch of the cardinal. Let's see which one I like. Did I get focus on him? No. See, if you're looking at it, you're like, that doesn't look too bad. It looks like nope. See, I'm focused back here where I'm not focused on the fence here. I thought I did nail one where I focused him on the fence. Let me see. He sat there a good long time. Nope. 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 No. No, no. No. More nose, more nose. More nose. I'm just not focused right. Should have closed down my iris a little bit so I could get a little bit more depth of field off this guy. I thought I nailed one. Let me see. Don't remember adjusting focus. He was there and he's gone. Gone. There's the mama. Is this the mama? Doop. Nope, he's gone. Gone, gone, gone. Gone, gone, gone. Missed. Hummingbirds, no. I don't know. I'm not good at getting birds that stand still sometimes. You want to put me a hummingbird that does not stand still. Um, nope. Nope. Don't like it. Nope. Just a no. See if this one. No. I think it's time of day too, shooting at night. So this fire. I'm not liking any of the fire shots I took. I really am not. They're just not good at all. Ugh. Yuck. Yuck. Alright, well. Okay, so let's see what I did pick off of this whole thing. So we grab our flagged. So I've picked out of what's actually in this. Filters off. Out of 130. Let's go back to the main monitor here. Out of 130, I picked out actual, like, 8. 8 pictures that I think I really want to work with and play with. And that's normal. You're gonna get, 9. Excuse me, 9. Let me recount. 9. Like 9 pictures out of 138 pictures that I took. That's normal. That's just the way it goes. Especially with wildlife, you shoot a lot and you come back and you go, did I get anything? Did I hit it right? Did I have everything set correctly? And usually end up going no. So now this is some of the things I like about Lightroom. It does make it efficient to go through and really pick, especially if you're using 2 monitors, because you can go through really quick and kind of pick through what you want. Pick, boom, 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 boom. What have I got? Keep one monitor up on the grid. Use the other monitor to kind of loop through so that you're just kind of moving and moving and moving. And kind of try to get these pictures, especially when you shoot a lot. In this case, there's 130 over a couple, like 3 or 4 days, but it's still a lot of pictures. So now I'm going to jump into the develop module and kind of see if I can make it work. One of the things that I do first, before I do anything else, is I do my lens corrections. The one thing that's really, I think the built-in Lightroom profile corrections are absolutely fabulous. It just flattens that baby out exactly how you want it to flatten out, and it just kind of gets rid of all the lens stuff that's going on, and it really just just makes it really easy. I never really have to play with distortion or vignetting. The EXIF data on the picture saves, this is the lens, this is what you need to do, and it does it. You don't have to change, you don't have to do anything with this, and it just kind of fixes a lot of those issues. So that's the first thing I do, is I put lens correction on. And then I'm not a tone curve kind of person. This could use probably some tone curve if you're looking to play with it and sounding, like it's probably say, oh yeah, I could do that. Let's do the magical S curve, but then that makes it look crappy. Everybody says, oh, you got that magical, you got to have the S curve and all that stuff. That's bullcrap. Just do what you like. Just I'll delete the, wrong. Let's get rid of this. Let's make this curve go back to where it was. So I don't really play with tone curves in Lightroom at all. I don't really play with the hue, saturation, and color. I'm not that kind of person. He says it's got to be teal and, what's the teal and whatever, teal and orange. Oh yeah, you got to have that teal and orange look. And so I usually stick to the basic color treatments because I think they work. And they work well. I can change the color temperature. I can warm this up a little bit, and it, as a very subtle warm up. It's not a lot. It's not something that I'm not going to go wow and put it into like sepia. I just want a little bit of. I just think Sony in general, and I'll say this, at least the cameras that I've got, I've shot with A6000s. I shot with an NEX5. the A6000 and now the A7 III, they tend to shoot a little on the cool side. That's just Sony. They shoot on the cool side. That's the way they are. So sometimes I do put a little bit of I play with the color temperature a little bit just to warm it up just a little, to bring some warmth to that, to take out, see, you can tell it's like a little bit on the cool side, a little bit on the blue side. And if you just, just a touch, you don't need a lot. You just push it a little bit to that end and boom, there it is. It brings that color out just a little bit, and just warms it up, especially if you're dealing with things that are like reds and yellows like this one. Now you can see the exposure here is fine. Somebody would say, well, if you're looking at the histogram, oh, you got big spike. Well, the big spike is this sky, and I don't really care about that. That's not what I want to see. I want to see, my focus is the birds, not the sky. And, they're right where I need to be. So, I don't play with that if I don't need to. So I don't really need to bring this exposure down to bring out the sky. It was a dismal day. It was cloudy. So the sky's the sky, and that's just the way it's going to be. I do bring the contrast up a little bit. Again, just a little. The more you go, the worse it looks. So you can, the more you play with it, the worse it gets. So kind of just push it to where you just get a little bit of what you want, and then pull it back. Go like, oh yeah, and then just pull it back, because that way you're not pushing it too far. This one I really don't need to play with shadows, whites, or highlights or anything like that. I do love the clarity switch. Again, just push it just a little. This one probably needs just a little. You can push it till you see an impact and then bring it back down. But the subtler you are, the less is more always in any of these cases. I do bring like the color vibrance one. Again, just a touch, not to make it super vibrant or anything like that. I don't normally play with saturation unless I have to. In this case, the colors. No, clarity is not the same as in Photoshop. The question is clarity the same as sharpen in Photoshop? No, it's not. It's not the same. It does something different. It doesn't really sharpen anything. Like here, I'll bring it in. When you bring it down, it doesn't really sharpen anything. It's more of like it just takes a little bit off of it to make it clearer. It kind of gives a little bit of punch without really impacting the sharpness at all. If you're shooting sharp, it's going to, if the lens is sharp, the lens is there. When you put your clarity on, it's just going to just kind of make it punch. It's more of like, it's more of a punch. So if I push it this way, you see it's not like with your sharpen, it's not, you get some edge noise and stuff in there. When you really start pushing it in, that's not the way the clarity works. So it's just like that. I had probably going to be about right there is what's going to make it. You just want to give it that little bit of punch. So it's not the same. I don't really need to use a dehaze on this. This is actually pretty good. I could probably boost just to boost the yellows, and that, just again, a little bit. Like you start pulling into this and you start getting a little crazy. And so just a little bit of saturation, just because I want to bring some of those yellows out. If you look at where here, it doesn't seem like much, but it is more of a psychological thing than anything else. You're going to bring the red out in this guy a little bit. You're going to make him a little bit more red. It's like, you're just going to it's really like just a touch subtle effect. And you can see that improves that picture just a lot right there from that standpoint. And I don't have to play with detail. Usually I leave the detail where it's at. This is where you see your sharpness filters and your noise reduction. I was shooting at ISO 200. There's not a lot of noise on this camera when you're at that low of an ISO. It's just not there. But you could play with your sharpening here. This thing auto sharpens from a standpoint of it kind of auto sharpens it when you bring it in using a Sony profile. So I never really play with that too much. I never really feel if I have to sharpen, because the default sharpening is good. But here's the difference. Here, I'll show you a difference between sharpening. Like here's sharpening, and you can see that it's starting to bring the noise in the background and everything when I'm pushing that sharpening up to kind of give it that sharp. If I bring it back to the default, where the clarity did not do that. See, the clarity does something entirely different, and I had that set at 6. So it's an entirely different thing than sharpening. So it's pretty neat. So looking at this, let's take a look at it from where we were before. I always forget what this key is. So you think I would know? I really don't look at it that much. To play with it, to see the full screen. So that's kind of what the picture looks like. I don't have the before and after. I forget. I think that's this one. Here's before and after. So you can see just a little subtle. We brought some color out. We brought some warmthness to the picture. We brought a little bit of clarity to it. And again, just kind of bringing some colors out a little bit. We didn't do a lot. There was not a lot to it. It was just some real subtle image adjustments, and you can see that that's really how I like that picture to look. So let's go to my bird feeder. We'll turn off before and after, and we'll take a look at this guy looking around the corner. Again, going down to the first thing we're going to do is turn on my lens corrections so that I get a nice look, flatten that out a little bit. And then I'm going to go into what do I need to do here. This is really, honestly, I ought to just crop this. I hate cropping, but it would look good on a crop. It really would. Like it would look good, like right probably there. Just kind of crop it right there. So what I'm going to do with this one a little bit, again, I'm not going to play with exposure. I do want to bring my shadows up just a little bit, just to kind of get his a little bit more here. See where this was in shadow? See, this is a lot in shadow right here, right where his eye is, right here. And this eye is also in a little bit of shadow. We're just going to bring it just right in there, just to, again, subtle. Don't push it too hard. Maybe bring the blacks up just a little bit. And playing with that warmthness. Playing with it just a little to get a little bit of that. Not a lot to do there. Kind of push the clarity just a touch. And some vibrance to pull some color out. Back it down. I don't think I need a lot of that. And there it is. Honestly, that would look really good cropped. Like, where would I want to crop it? Like, I would. Let's grab the crop tool. Where's that crop tool? Let's grab a crop tool, and let's just kind of see. Kind of bring it in even closer. Because I don't usually crop. So let's switch over to this monitor so you can see the effect of the crop without having to apply it. That's actually pretty neat. I don't know. Do I want to go a little bit here, put him in the center of this a little bit? That's actually a pretty neat crop. Pretty nice crop. Crop that sucker and see what it looks. There it is. It's cropped. I just think it just looks so good from a standpoint of it's not, the focus is a touch off. Just a touch, but it's not so bad that it ruins the picture when you crop in. He's just peeking around the corner. It's a neat one. Cropped. I don't know if these guys need, we'll leave that one the way it is. but that as a crop is really good. Flowers. Now this feels like it needs some work to me because of the way that this is probably an exposure bump when we're looking at the flowers. So let's do that. Like you could see on the histogram that this is kind of, the bulk is toward the end, but there's a lot there. So if we give it just a little bit of an exposure, again, don't, like, if you have to push over a stop, if you're like, man, I got to push this over, you didn't, if you're like pushing 2 stops, 3 stops in exposure, 3, 4 stops in exposure, anything over 1 stop, you are probably you missed it. You missed your exposure. You missed it on the shot. Half a stop I think that's probably good. It brings it right in there. Your histogram is not about being perfect. It's not about being that perfect. Like if you set this right here, is that, if I put the perfect, that does not look good to me. You lose a lot of the depth of the blacks, the depth of the colors, and then you've got to spend time bringing that. And that's a whole stop that I brought that up. So that's a whole stop up. I think a half stop really just does it for this, just to kind of bring out some of the stuff that it was a little bit down. Again, playing with that contrast, a little bit of contrast. Oh, I didn't do what I usually do first. Put a profile in there. There we go. So that's a little bit of contrast. You can start seeing it's starting to look really interesting now. It's starting to look a little bit more interesting. We brought that exposure up half a stop. We brought the contrast up a little bit. We don't need to do much else maybe. I might push the shadows just a little, just because there's a lot of shadow here in this area. And I could probably do that more selectively using a dodge and burn in Photoshop to try to lighten that a little bit. But for this picture, Lightroom just works fine. I mean, it really does. But I think what happens when you're looking at pictures and you can tell that they're over processed, you're like, oh, this is a little over processed. I don't think this one needs to warm out unless, well, it's light turned on. So I don't think this needs to warm up any. Let's kick it just a little bit. There we go. We're going to warm it up just a little bit. That's a little bit better. Again, just a touch. That's what I find with these Sony cameras is it's just a touch. It's not anything that is going to be, oh, I got to have this, or I got to have it. Maybe bring the black up just a little bit too. But the auto white balance gets it close enough. And because we're playing with raw, it's just that easy. Clarity. Don't need a lot. If I zoom in here, kind of show you how the clarity, see, it's just kind of pick it. Don't need a lot of clarity there. I do want to bring the vibrance up, maybe more than I would normally, just because these are such purple and pink flowers, or such that I want that to feel more color, and maybe a little bit of saturation too. So you see that's it. I don't do a lot of post-processing. I don't ever think it needs a lot of, I found that if your exposure's good, if your exposure's decent, it's within the box. If your focus is within the box, where you want it to be, then everything, you don't need a lot of post-processing. You really don't. But you do want to post-process. I mean, I think that if we look at this from a before and after, you could see how different it is from a before and after. If I had posted this strictly out of, like if I posted this online strictly out of the camera, I would not be happy with it. It's not something I would look at. I would want to say, oh, this is something I want to share. This is the after shot here. I now want to share. So this is something that, man, maybe I would like to share and kind of play with that. So you could see that there's just a little bit of bump, not a lot of processing, and it's a different kind of picture. It's just a different kind of look. So that says that really it pops a little bit more. The tree pops a little bit more. The flowers pop a little bit more. Um, and it just really kind of makes me really happy. So let's go to this guy right here. Now this is going to be one of those ones where, what are we going to do? Let's drop that lens correction on. See, his eye is there. It's in focus, but you can't see it. So you almost have to. And if I bring up the exposure's great. The exposure's right where it's supposed to be. I really like where the sun's hitting this here. Kind of backlights him a little and stuff. It's just that his eye is just not where it's in that black area. So do we push the blacks to try to bring his eye out a little bit, or do we play with selective in Photoshop, or even selective here? Because you can do some selective filtering, with an adjustment brush, where you could say, well, what I'm going to do is just do, this is the adjustment brush. I tend not to like to use it because it can get clunky. Like your brush size, like if I'm going to bring this brush size, I'm going to bring it down way, way down. I'm going to look at blacks and then kind of just see if I can do some selective raising of the blacks on this. I hate it. I hate it. So we're just going to undo it. Undo. 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 We'll just reset. We'll just hit the reset button. Reset, and it's back to the way it was. So like I said, I'm never happy with the adjustment brush and the way it works. I tend to like to work with the tools in Photoshop a little bit more. If I'm gonna play with this, I tend to like to work with the Photoshop tools a little bit more than to do something like that, to maybe dodge that up a little bit or something, or play with it. So since I did hit the reset button, that's the other thing. I mean, Lightroom is great too because it's really non-destructive. I mean, you can play with edits and everything and kind of get it to where, oh, I really like this or I really don't like it. And kind of adjust it back. I'm going to try to bring the overall picture up just a little bit. I think it would work to boost some shadow. One, because it also brings the shadow up from inside the feeder, which if you look was not, I mean, again, it was a little bit on the light side. So do we bring it, the overall blacks, not playing anything with the exposure. We're going to warm it up just again, playing with that, warm up just a little bit. Pull some contrast up just a little bit. Drop some clarity on there. Drop some vibrance on there. Back down. I don't think I need to deal with that. And you can almost see his eye now. It's there. Like if you really look, it's there. And it's in focus. It's just really hard to see against that little black dude. So, with this one, his eyes are just not right where I want it to be. Huh. One thing you can do, and if you like the way things have started with Lightroom, and I do this a lot too, is if I'm okay, I've shot pretty much, like if I look at the settings on this, it's 1.5 ISO 100. The settings of the camera itself really didn't change here. So as a starting point, you can actually take your develop settings and paste settings from previous, and that kind of pulls everything over. So, wrong one. Undo paste settings. We're going to do paste settings from previous on this one. Develop settings, paste settings from previous. And that kind of pulls everything over from the previous photo, which pretty much had the same settings, to the point of where you can bring it up a little bit. And then play with it. Why don't you do that? Oh, come on. Develop settings, paste settings from previous. Why You're not doing that. You don't like it. Okay, reset. There we go. Finally did it. So you can see that we're playing a little bit. I might want to try to pull the shadows up just a little bit more, just to kind of get him a little bit more in the, and this might actually work for a crop too. I mean, both of these might actually work for a crop. So pull up my crop tool. See, let's go over here and see what it looks like. See what the crop. See, I mean, I think I could probably go with a little bit more crop even. Kind of put that kind of right in there. Put them right in the offset that. Yeah, actually, you could go for the crop. That's an interesting crop. I've never really had a lens where I felt like I needed to crop, but this, with these pictures, I feel like I can crop and it doesn't look bad at all. I mean, I would post that one to the internet. Would I print it? Probably not. But I'd post it to the internet, to the interwebs, and let the JPEGs mess with it. So I am close to 8 o'clock. I think I'm going to be done for the evening playing with these pictures. We did a paste previous on this one. Let's go with it. Let's see what the crop looks like. And I can put that in the center. And that actually is a pretty neat crop there too. Even a little bit more. You can bring in a little bit more. I think a lot of this has to do with that lens. Just that it's that the lenses just makes it just so much easier to play with the crop settings. So it's okay. I think I'm going to take my hour today. That's what I'm going to do. Here's a straight on. Oh, his eyes look really kind of there. We're going to play with that one. I might play with these a little bit more after I go off live stream. Thanks everybody for kind of hanging out. And this has been Amateur Adobe Live, and you get to watch me play with these pictures and mess with them. And discover that, gee, crop is not that bad when you have a really decent lens to play with. And looking at some of these cropped guys that look really neat. So it's really cool. And I really haven't felt the need to crop. But like I said, with Lightroom, I'm a light touch photographer. I don't do a lot of post-processing. I try to get things as much as I can in camera. That's because I'm really old and I used to shoot film, and you had to get it right in camera before you took it to the darkroom, because there wasn't a lot you could do. You could do a lot of stuff in the darkroom and you could play with it, but it just took forever and nobody wanted to do that. So my philosophy on editing pictures has always been get it as much right in camera as you can, and then do as little post-processing as you can, because who wants to sit behind a computer? You want to be out shooting pictures. So, as I said, I appreciate everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you have a good evening, and I hope you're being safe. Be safe and be smart. Have a good evening.